Hi, my name is Rachelle Smith, entrepreneur, professional speaker, and author. Last time, I highlighted the importance of allowing circumstances in life, good and bad, to allow us to become better people and not bitter people. And closely related, and you can probably tell now all of my episodes are all interrelated and intertwined, I wanted to highlight the importance and the power of leveraging our mistakes. All right, you may say, what? Power of mistakes? Folks, I spent an entire chapter in one of my books. Actually, the title of the chapter was The Power of Mistakes. Because the truth is, folks, mistakes serve as building blocks, as stepping stones to our personal growth, professional growth, spiritual growth. And you may not see it that way, but what I want to do today is challenge you to reframe your thinking regarding what does and what doesn't happen in your life. Any mistakes that you may make, any mistakes that you may have made in the past that you're still kind of groveling over and feeling so horribly about, or mistakes that others may have made that were against you or impacted you in some way. I want you to reframe your thinking today to say, you know what? Mistakes are powerful tools that we have the opportunity to leverage to make ourselves and our lives better, believe it or not. And like I said, I spent an entire chapter actually highlighted a doom relationship that you guys have heard me talk about. Of course, in that chapter, I went into a lot more detail. All right. And so, of course, we'll leave that there. But that was a mistake. Yes, it was. I could have derailed my college plans and my whole life could have turned out very differently if I wouldn't have believed the revelations, woke up and saw the light and ended that relationship. But that relationship was a wonderful learning opportunity and wonderful opportunity for my own growth. And I've learned the lessons. And I love what I heard Dr. Henry Cloud, my brain's a repository for quotes. Dr. Henry Cloud said on a TV program back in 2009. I remember it like it was yesterday. Once we learn a lesson, it tends to kind of disappear from our life. But until we learn it, it'll always be there. All right, so if we're making the same mistakes, if we're running around the same mountain, then that means clearly we have not learned a lesson. So it's important that yes, mistakes may happen. Yes, we're all imperfect human beings. And yes, sometimes that's just a part of life and a part of living. But we've got to learn the lessons. A few years ago, I actually bought about 3 or 4 of these different types of erasers, and they inspire me. And I've actually used them in a couple of speeches here in years past. The first is, my bad. When you think about your mistakes, my bad. Number 2, not again. Again, and this one really alludes to learning the lesson so you're not repeating those. Okay, and so we all make mistakes. We're all human beings. We're not perfect. Life is going to happen. Things are going to happen. So we just got to get up every day doing our very best. And I love what the late Dr. Maya Angelou said. Another wonderful quote of hers is, when we learn better, we do better. And that's so true. Each and every one of us, when we learn better, we do better. So really kind of forgive yourself when it comes to your mistakes. I'll do an episode on forgiveness down the road, but think about your mistakes and just how they've literally made you better people. And that's true for all of us. Because I could sit here and go on and on about different mistakes that I've made and the lessons that I've learned. And I'm so grateful, as crazy as it sounds, for just my mistakes and just how they've kind of opened my eyes and taught me some wonderful lessons that I needed to learn. Sometimes some hard lessons, and sometimes some easy lessons, okay, sometimes some painful lessons, all right? And so just know, mistakes are just that, they're mistakes, and just strive to do better and be better, and that's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful perspective to have. And so regarding mistakes, and literally when I think about my own life, somebody just asked me yesterday, folks, Rachelle, I bet you are so sorry you joined your gym, because everything you've dealt with this year with that, older guy stalking you and whatever. And I said, you know what, actually I'm not. I never regard anything fitness related as a mistake. And actually that being kind of, asked that question and mentioned that, having that being mentioned to me, really kind of got me thinking. And I, of course, explained that, I joined the gym and I actually have my receipt. I save all of my fitness things. But when I first bought this condo here in Novi, moved in September 25th, 2009, and as my receipts alluded to, it's actually the facility itself now is under new leadership and ownership, but I joined it when it was Fusion Fitness. And so you can see I moved in here on the 25th and I got this membership September 28, 2009 at 2:39 p.m. A guy named Bryce Detloff sold me my membership 1 year paid in full for $299. And so, of course, I was, like I said, I was already at the facility long time ago. when it was Fusion Fitness, and Bally's, which was a little bit, a couple miles further down the road. I had been affiliated with Bally's when I was in Miami, loved Bally's. Bally's was corporate. And Bally's basically came to me and said, come back for $99 a year. And I just jumped at the opportunity. And unfortunately, Bally's closed in June 2012. So many of us, probably most of us, came over from Bally's and so I was back at the facility, but the name had changed and all of that. And so I don't regret joining the gym, and I don't regret going back. I couldn't have foreseen the future and known that 2016 was going to be my year to kind of deal with this insanity and nonsense. There's no way I could have predicted that. So think about that in relation to your own mistakes and mistakes that you've made. Is it something you could have foreseen or something you could have predicted? Or did you go into it with good faith? All right, and that's exactly what I did. So, didn't have any problems for the longest time. And so 2016 was obviously my year. And so when I'll be honest with you, in relation to mistakes, in relation to that facility for a long time, I would often say, the biggest mistake I made was on February 27th, I shouldn't have gone to the front desk to report him. I should have called the police right then, because, ultimately I had to, kind of file a police report down the road. But I wish, for a long time, I wished I would have, gone straight to the police and had them nip it in the bud. I thought that was my biggest mistake. It wasn't, because again, I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt. I assumed, hey, these people, there's a long legacy, long history. I've been in gym since I was 5 years old. The protocol is always typically, go to the front desk and then they will escalate it. They will handle and manage the situation. So I gave the benefit of the doubt. So I have no regrets in terms of that. And so that was a mistake that I thought I made, was not reporting it. So no, I don't regret that. I in good faith, I took the appropriate actions, but I realize now the biggest mistake, the real mistake that I made was, in this kind of whole situation, was endorsing a facility in which I had very little interaction with ownership and the leadership team. That was a huge mistake, and it's so obvious now, but I lost my objectivity, and I know better. As one who writes and speaks and trains on leadership, I know better. And ultimately, that was a big mistake that I made on my part. And a mistake that, is clearly a very public mistake because you all and everyone else kind of recognizes the big mistake that I made and just making assumptions. And that was, of course, a huge mistake. Just the whole thing was a big mistake. Making assumptions that there was policies, procedures, protocols in place, and the people were clueless. I could just write a book. I could write a book on this right here and how it should be handled differently, but I have written a case study and will use that in leadership development training to help other people it's always kind of easy to see when you're outside the situation and just kind of see all the mistakes and the missteps that were made. And so I made that erroneous assumption. And I ultimately learned what I was dealing with. I had to believe the revelation, as you've heard me say before. And I really feel like God was tapping me on the shoulder. I'm a woman of faith. And I believe in divine guidance, divine providence, okay? And I feel like God was tapping me on the shoulder with this whole experience saying, Rachelle, what are you doing? Okay, you're endorsing this facility, you're endorsing all of this leadership team, and guess what? Look what you're doing. Do you really want to be associated with this? People that are clueless and don't have any idea what they're doing, and basically you're going through this situation, but it was a lesson. And as crazy as it sounds, if this wouldn't have happened to me, I would have never learned, and I would still be kind of running around, not, kind of having seen the truth and known the truth and understanding the truth. And so, and as people told me early on, especially my dad was the very first one in line and said, these people don't have a clue what they're doing. And this, clearly they haven't dealt with a situation like this, and which is kind of hard to believe because, stalking issues, sexual harassment type issues and fitness facilities, that's a given. It's very, very common, which kind of lets me know and lets particularly for those of you who own gyms, that people typically leave quietly. They don't want to deal with all this. They don't have the confidence. They don't have the courage to kind of deal with these type of situations head on. So he clearly didn't know what to do with the situation. It was so apparent. In fact, and at some point, let me tell you, at several points, I would kind of look around, even recently, and be like, okay, is John Quinones about to roll in here with his camera crew and say, all right, Rachelle, this has all been a setup. Everyone laughs and says, okay, you're going to be on the next episode or a future episode of What Would You Do? A gym edition. Because folks, it's just clear. They were just, I could, like I said, write a book. Clearly their response, they felt an appropriate solution was to have employees watch me and relatives, and I can tell they all kind of resemble each other, and they're real short. Come in on Saturdays, sometimes early in the morning during the week when I'm there, and you know, end up in a certain area where I am, or I'm on this treadmill, and this one kind of middle-aged, it's a middle-aged man and a middle-aged woman. I'm not sure if they know each other, but they never talk when they're in there. But I'll be on this treadmill, and this lady has actually gotten on the machine behind me. I go stretch. She's somewhere stretching near me, and so I know somebody has given them a mandate, something like watch her while she's in there, keep an eye on her, or whatever. But I understand that from the employees, but see, no one ever had a conversation with me to say this is what our response is going to be, Rachelle. This is what we're going to do. And so the average person would have been creeped out, just totally, and just run to another gym, run with track shoes on to another gym. But fortunately, I have a sales background, so I'm able to read nonverbals and situations where people aren't saying anything, and I'm noticing trends and stuff, and I recognize what was going on. And interestingly enough, but when, I've got to tell you this, and this is funny. Now, a young guy there, he's a newer trainer, probably been there a few months. He looks like he could be my son, like real small, pretty thin, and young. I'm guessing he's about, 18, I don't know. Whatever. So, but anyway, I was kind of noticing him, and I wasn't sure for a while, like, did they give him the mandate to keep an eye on me or whatever when he's in here and he's not training a client? And so, I was kind of noticing I'd go on the basketball court to twirl, and there he would be. And that happened a few times, and I'd be over in the weight room area, and then now I see him. And so I was like, okay, so I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he's an employee. He's not one of these relatives or just a kind of regular staff member that I recognize what's going on. This is just, this young black guy, this young trainer, what's going on here? And so, but what I did, and I'm going to do a future episode on body language and how important that is to read body language, is what I will typically do is a first step in situations where, I don't want to be bothered or whatever. I'll send a message without saying a word. And that is typically, like, if someone comes near me or next to me, I will either leave or just turn my back to the person as they're coming up to me. And so the Southern Belle, I'm trying to help a person save face. But anyway, one time, actually the last time, he came into the court and I was twirling literally maybe a minute and a half. Hadn't even been there that long. So he strolls in there and I said, okay. I wasn't sure what was going on and whatever. He hadn't said anything to me, but I left. And so he got the message, folks, because he hasn't been anywhere near me since. So gave him the benefit of the doubt because he's an employee. But anyway, folks, so whatever mistakes, like I said, whether it's a situation where kind of mistakes were made and it's impacted you kind of like me, or you've made mistakes, and we all have. And again, these folks, these are good people. Leadership, they're good people. They mean well, clearly just didn't know what to do in this situation and didn't have any insight or any strong external voices kind of advising them in terms of what to do and how situations like this are handled. So nothing personal. So, but when it comes to your mistakes, folks, we've got to learn the lessons and really, really make sure that we're not running around the same mountains over and over again, because life is a wonderful opportunity for you to grow, to become a better person. Crazy as it sounds, I am a much better person than I was here right now than I was at the beginning of 2016, before this has happened. I've learned so many different lessons. I've learned, hey, this guy is clearly mentally, clearly there's some mental problems there. And I have had, from what I know, like zero experience dealing with people that could potentially be schizophrenic, bipolar, manic depressive, as a couple of my law enforcement friends have told me that this guy fits the profile. So I've learned some awesome lessons. I'm a better person for it. I know other people have learned from me. And so don't let mistakes get you down. Don't let mistakes, and even mistakes of other people, make you run and cow and run, and just take off and run from conflict. Okay, regardless, do whatever you have to do in order to kind of protect your joy, protect your livelihood, protect your happiness, whatever is important to you. Don't let any mistakes, yours, someone else's, present, past, or even future, stop you from living your best life now. Thanks so much for your time. Make it a wonderful day.